Hello, and welcome to the Legal Checkup. This is your host, Vince Quatrini, from the law firm of Quatrini Rafferty. And we have offices now in Greensburg, Latrobe, and Pittsburgh. I want to welcome you today to our program. I have the fun job today of interviewing my son, Michael. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
And today's subject is critical to you, the listener, to the people in your family, and to your friends who have served in the armed forces. Today we're going to talk about veterans' disability claims. Oftentimes people do not realize that there is a stream of income available to veterans who have suffered a service-connected disability. Michael is going to explain this concept to you this morning. And what we want you to, the takeaway to be, is to realize that you may know somebody who has a disability, a problem, a medical problem that arises from their service in the armed forces. So let's start with that, Michael. The Veterans Administration has this separate program. My analogy would be to the Social Security Disability Program. Would you explain to the listener what these benefits are? And let's start there.
The similarity to the Social Security system is really only the process itself. What the VA has created is a benefit system that is designed to compensate individuals who were active duty participants for any injuries or illnesses that result from their service to our country. So, for instance, if you are overseas and you sustain a knee injury, when you get back to the United States, you can apply for a benefit for that knee injury. If you are here stateside or, again, overseas, and part of what you experience after getting back is something like post-traumatic stress disorder, if you had exposure to Agent Orange, there are a number of conditions and diseases that are associated with that exposure. Again, you can apply for a benefit through the Veterans Administration that will pay you a percentage-based benefit, really depending on how severe your symptoms are. So in the instance that we were talking about with the knee, there's a schedule that basically runs down exactly what you would be paid for that knee injury, up to and including benefits payable for a knee replacement over time if necessary. The same thing goes with different types of cancers that are known to be caused by medical water exposure at Camp Lejeune. And we're going to talk a little bit about the biggest source of claims at the Veterans Administration right now are those for exposure to Agent Orange while in Vietnam, or to the water supply for all of the Marines that served at Camp Lejeune between 1957 and 1987.
So Michael has been certified to do this work, which you are required to do if you want to be an attorney and represent veterans before the Veterans Administration. Right after he came out of law school, the Congress had just passed the statute which permitted attorneys to represent veterans. Michael got his certification immediately, so he's been doing this for 10 years, in addition to his other practice areas in workers' compensation and Social Security disability. As you can imagine, those three areas overlap in the representation of injured and disabled individuals. Michael's also a sustaining member of the National Organization of Veterans Advocates. Talk just a moment about that organization, Michael, and why it's important to our listeners who may not be living in this geographic area.
So the National Organizations of Veterans Advocates really I think of as the backbone for attorneys nationwide and who are responsible for actually going to Congress and explaining to them over a period of time that individuals going through the Veterans Administration process should be entitled to have legal representation at those hearings, and that if they want to pay them a contingent fee through that process, they should have the right to do so. Prior to attorneys getting accredited to do this work, individuals are only being represented by people through the American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, other nonprofit groups that are absolutely well-meaning. There are people that work very, very hard with veterans on a daily basis. But it really boils down to the fact that they were completely overwhelmed and are still overwhelmed to this day because of not only the past conflicts that veterans have come home from, but the one that has sustained us now for over a decade in Iraq, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. So this allowed individuals to go to attorneys, say to them, look, I want you to look at my case and I want you to help me through this administrative process. And what we think we've been able to add in terms of value to their claims are the intimate knowledge of how to interpret a statute in favor of a veteran. And more importantly, what I think our specialty for helping veterans is at Quatrini Rafferty is our multiple, really 30 plus years of medical and vocational contacts throughout Western Pennsylvania. Once you get into this system, the VA must afford you an examination. That examination is usually cursory, meaning it's very short, not very thorough. It's most times not done by a doctor, or even if it is done by a doctor, not a specialist in that particular area, like cancer or orthopedic surgery or spinal surgery. And I think that they get the examination wrong. What we're able to do is reach out to our vast resource of medical professionals to get that specialty examination that ultimately we think carries a lot of weight with a veterans law judge or a hearing officer at the local VA regional office, because that's what the doctor does every day. And again, they're specialists in those areas.
You're listening to The Legal Checkup. This is Vince Quatrini, your host, interviewing Michael Quatrini, a veterans advocate here at our firm of Quatrini Rafferty. You can always go onto our website, qrlegal.com, and learn more about our firm and our representation of injured and disabled individuals. We've been doing it for literally over 40 years and are in the daily practice of taking care of people who have either a medical disability or an injury. There are toll-free number I wanted to also add. If you want to call in, we do give free consultations, 888-288-9748. And Michael, let's talk about the process for just a moment. I want to apply for veterans disability. Where would I get my application? And do you personally participate in the application process? And if not, where do you come into the picture?
Just to start out, we help with appeals of the initial decisions. So that initial decision that you get has to come from an application that you file, and you can do it one of many ways. The VA has been very good with having online applications available through e-benefits. Again, that's e-benefits. You can get to that through a very simple Google search. You'll have to sign up. You'll have to provide some of your information from when you served so that you can have an account. and you can go forward with filing a benefit through e-benefits, period.
Okay, so I filed my application.
Well, hold on 1 second here. I want to make sure that for people that are not as inclined to feel comfortable with the internet, you can also go directly to the VA regional office. They will do or schedule your application there. You could also go through the Disabled American Veterans or the American Legion or Veterans of Foreign Wars, and they have those offices throughout the Pittsburgh region.
So if you belong to a local chapter of the VFW, there's probably someone within your chapter that may know that process?
I would say so, or at least get you to the people in the Pittsburgh main office who will be able to walk you through those steps.
So we also have an office here in Westmoreland County. What's the name of that office for veterans?
That's actually a county-sponsored office, and they're really, really good. Matt Zamoski, who is in charge of the office, has a nice staff put together who, again, will walk you through not only the Veterans Disability Compensation benefits, the things that we're talking about. They'll provide you with a copy of the application. They'll help you through the process, but also for other benefits that are available, not through the federal government, but through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, stuff like property tax reductions. And there are other ancillary monetary benefits that are payable depending on how severe your condition is and whether it involves multiple body parts, including your hands and your feet.
And you could reach Matt and his staff by calling the Westmoreland County Courthouse?
That's correct.
So after the break, which we're going to take right now, we're going to come back and start to talk about presumptions of medical problems that you would get benefits from the Veterans Administration if you have one of those medical conditions. You're listening to The Legal Checkup, sponsored by the law firm of Quatrini Rafferty. You can reach us at 888-288-9748 for a free consultation. At one of our 3 offices, we always invite you to come in person and sit with us if you have a legal issue that we can assist you with. Greensburg, Latrobe, and Pittsburgh. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Legal Checkup. This is your host, Vince Quatrini. Today, we are interviewing Michael Quatrini, the legal representative for veterans with service-connected disabilities. Welcome back, Michael.
Hello.
And so we want to talk now about when you get involved. So the individual has filed their application and they have a decision from the Veterans Administration either awarding them some benefit or denying the claim entirely. What is the next step and where do you come in?
That decision they receive in the mail is actually called a rating decision. And just like you explained, that rating decision will walk through each of the conditions that the individual applied for and either grant them benefits as being service-connected or deny them as being not service-connected. In addition to the fact that they will grant them as service-connected, they will assign a percentage to them, anywhere between 0 and 100%, depending on the severity of the condition, whether it's a physical, psychological, or multi-body part ailment. At that point, what I do is sit down with the veteran and go through each of the different body parts or conditions that they have to determine whether A, have they assigned the correct percentage in terms of the severity, or 2, if the condition has been outright denied as not being service-connected, start to have a conversation with the veteran as to why they believe it's service-connected. What happened to them in the service? What happened to them in basic training? Where have they treated over time? Because it's one thing to have an accident in the service, but a lot of times no one treated for them, right? It was, you're weak if you treat for something. And so without that connection or without that notation while you were in the service, sometimes those can be very difficult, if not impossible, claims to make, especially if they're physical injuries.
Have you been able, over the years, to get around that handicap in some cases?
Well, I'd say really what I've been able to do is do a more thorough job of seeing what's available.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can get copies of the service treatment records, I can see at times that, yes, there was a notation for a neck injury. And in that same entry from the doctor, the individual had problems going down their left arm. Well, many years later, and after speaking with a spinal specialist, that spinal specialist can say, "Oh my gosh, during the heat of battle, this was in Iraq. Yes, no one really did an MRI or figured out how bad the neck injury was at the time, so it was denied as being just a strain, and nothing current was relatable to that. But after looking at it, the neck specialist was able to say, no, clearly that person had the type of neck injury that would have required surgery. Here are the reasons why. So those are really just deep digs into those records.
You're listening to the Legal Checkup, and today we're interviewing Michael Quatrini of the law firm of Quatrini Rafferty. Please, we welcome you to visit our website to learn more about what our firm does for injured and disabled individuals, auto accidents. We unfortunately have to represent individuals in the bankruptcy court whose lives are turned upside down financially because of an injury or an illness. Michael, there are certain medical conditions that you get a presumption of connection to the service that you were performing. Can you talk about those and what they mean to you when you are appealing this case for an individual?
That's correct. There are certain circumstances which grant veterans benefits just on A, where they served, and B, what conditions they have. The most well-known of those are Agent Orange connected conditions. Basically, the VA has said anyone who is exposed to Agent Orange and has a certain number of conditions, they will be granted benefits, period. The only thing that individual has to prove is, one, that they stepped foot in Vietnam, even for a matter of minutes, and two, that they have a condition that is listed on the VA's website as being connected to Agent Orange exposure. In those circumstances, I'm not fighting about whether or not the Agent Orange caused that condition. I'm simply evaluating whether or not they granted the person the right percentage, and secondly, whether they also evaluated any secondary conditions.
Let's take that in two parts. One is this percentage of disability. So they get awarded a 10% disability on their application because of Agent Orange. You're trying to increase that percentage, obviously. How does that help them? Do they get more money because of the increase in percentage?
Yes, they get more money by every increase in percentage. What we're trying to do in those circumstances is evaluate, did the VA really look at how severe the condition is? Are they just taking an oral medication for their diabetes? Or are they insulin dependent? Are they having episodes of what we call ketoacidosis over times? Each of those different things, those changes, can result in a higher percentage, which is a higher monthly benefit.
It's clear that you understand the medical here, which sounds like it's specific to these disease processes, and you would have talked about our relationship with medical experts. Obviously, you reach out to them in putting your case together on appeal for these veterans?
Yes, and I think it helps the veteran feel comfortable knowing that somebody who specializes in a certain condition actually looked at the claim. There are times that I may go over an appeal with a veteran, and after speaking to the doctor says, you know what, actually, I think that percentage is correct, or I can't make that connection to that injury that happened 45 years ago during basic training. And really, in those circumstances, what I find is the veteran feels comfortable that they went and checked every box to make sure that they went through the process, and now they have a really good doctor saying to them, look, we just can't do it in this circumstance. But more times than not, that doctor is able to pick out something that the VA missed or didn't do a more thorough examination to try to increase that benefit.
Okay, the other concept that you raised is secondary conditions. What does that mean?
So I always like to use diabetes as the easiest one. Medical science tells us that when somebody has diabetes, there are secondary conditions that result from just having diabetes. Those include neuropathy into your hands or to your feet. Those can include diabetic retinopathy, which can affect your vision. It could even have an effect on your heart over time and other different parts of your body. What we're looking at is, did the VA say, yes, you have diabetes and it's X percent, but did they actually even take the time to do the examination to see if you're having problems with your feet or your hands or your vision or other things that are known to come from diabetes?
So I wanted, before we close today, to have you touch on some specific medical diagnoses and conditions that our listeners might have or know of someone who has, that they could relate and maybe go forward with a claim. Would you talk about some of the presumptive conditions?
I think what I try to advise anyone is that if you served in Vietnam or you served at Camp Lejeune at any point in time, the likelihood of you having a condition that may or may not be listed is pretty high. There are some veterans who did what I call double duty. They were in Vietnam and they served at Camp Lejeune. And so really I think that multiplies the incidence of any disease process. So, just Camp Lejeune alone, the VA has now confirmed that there was a tainting of the water over an extended period of time. And what the VA has said is, look, if you were there for more than 30 days, the following conditions are automatically connected to your exposure. Those include adult leukemia, liver cancer, bladder cancer, Parkinson's disease, kidney cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, multiple myeloma, and aplastic anemia are the different conditions that are automatically guaranteed for benefits. Now, there is a second list that's a little bit more extensive that is presumptive for medical benefits only. I think it's kind of ridiculous that they would pay for your medical benefits but not pay you monetary benefit on a monthly basis. There are some additional conditions on the medical-only benefit list. But that first list I gave you, those are the benefits that you would receive a monthly check for, depending on the severity, just for having been at Camp Lejeune for more than 30 days.
And I guess, obviously, you have this down to a science at this point of knowing exactly what those conditions are. And when you sit with a veteran, it's for an analysis of all of this. So this is somebody whose application was either granted with a lower percentage or denied. What's it usually take you, a half hour to an hour to try to review this with them in a free consultation?
I'd say that's about accurate. I think more importantly, what I'm trying to tell them is what is the path for trying to appeal this, what is the path for trying to uncover any mistakes, and more importantly, having to have the hard conversation with them that the average wait time on appeal is somewhere in the 950-day range. It's a very long appeal process. There are a lot of veterans applying for benefits, and with, again, I think I touched on this earlier, with 2 wars going on over the last 10 years, that's only increased the amount of people in the system over time.
You've been listening to The Legal Checkup with Vince Quatrini, interviewing my son, Michael Quatrini, who is a veteran advocate certified by the Veterans Administration. If you would want to learn more about how we could assist you with a Veterans Service-Connected Disability application, give us a call, toll-free at 888-288-9748, or visit our website at qrlegal.com. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.